What's up, guys? This is Marco Stunt, and you're listening to All Elite Podcast.
I'm Mark Quinn. This is Isaiah Cassidy, and we are Private Party.
And you're watching the All Elite Podcast.
With the source, that's Jungle Boy. You need to check out All Elite Podcast.
We are the Lucha Brothers, and you listen All Elite Podcast.
You know why?
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite Podcast. All Elite. All Elite.
This is Sammy Guevara, the best ever. And you, yes, you, need to go check out All Elite Podcast.
Myself, the man with the huge effort arms, Brian Cage. You're watching the All Elite Podcast. Who better?
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting edition of the All Elite Podcast. As you see, we've got a super cool intro. It only took me about 6 months, a year to put that together. I've had all those audio clips forever and never actually put them to use as I should have. But we are back, and we are on Tuesdays once again. I feel like we did Tuesday shows back in the day, but yeah, it's definitely a different week. Dynamite was on Saturday. I was a bit busy. I had to work all night. Kira and Phil, I believe they watched live, actually. They were the only ones who were actually able to probably have gone Saturday Night Live had we had the ability, but we weren't. I wasn't totally caught up on everything that had happened by the time the show was over. But as you could see, Kira and Phil also aren't here. We are joined by our boy, Big Match AJ. AJ, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I've just been doing a lot of meetings, businessy stuff that I don't like for movies. The fun part's almost over. Now it's all the work.
Yeah, I was gonna say your fun part does seem to be about over. Every week for many weeks, AJ. We opened the podcast with you talking about writing and how you were writing, and that was insanely the fun part. To some people, they don't love writing for weeks on end, but for you, that was the fun.
Yeah.
Now you've got to get into like some of the actual serious part of it, which I could understand that not being so fun, but it is cool. Like if someone's been listening, they've followed your path up to this point. That's really cool. Like you're getting into the actual point of putting together movies. So I'm excited for you, man. That's really exciting. I've been here with you throughout the whole process. So to hear, obviously the listeners don't get to be in our group chat, but to just hear the stuff you have going on and to see that you have so much exciting stuff going on now, it's exciting, dude. So I'm very happy for you.
It's definitely exciting. I'm really happy with what's going on now. For when I moved, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to keep up with it, but luckily it's still been going strong.
Yeah, and it seemed, like I said, it seems like everything's been going well for you. So that's exciting. And Dynamite went really well this Saturday. A lot of people might be surprised with the ratings. Us going on Tuesday, we're able to actually talk about that. It took a while. With it being a Saturday night show, I honestly didn't know when ratings were going to drop. I was pretty surprised we didn't get any news yesterday. But how interesting. You actually pulled the number. What was it again?
755K.
Yeah, that is interesting, especially for a Saturday. Now, they obviously had a really good lead-in, and I didn't look to see what the actual NBA playoff number was prior. So they probably were at about at least 1.5 million prior to Dynamite. So, but the execs were happy. Everyone seems happy, and it was a good number, 770,000, when you know the casual or the usual Dynamite fans probably weren't able to tune in. These were a lot of new fans, I feel like. So that in and of itself is exciting. Yeah,
and a lot of new fans got to see Cody look like a bitch.
Yeah, and that's a point we definitely have to make. And that's why it's unfortunate that we don't have Kira and Cody, or Kira and Phil, I should say, with us. If we had Kira and Cody, that would also be an interesting conversation in and of itself. But yeah, Kira and Phil, like I said, they're both a little busy tonight, unable to make it to the show. But yeah, with the whole Cody segment especially, I know they had a lot to say about that. And we'll have to talk about it again when we do our show, probably Thursday night, I would imagine. If everyone's available, we're going to go right after Dynamite. That fits my schedule the best. I imagine it will, if we're tuned in, it should fit everyone's schedule the best. So
yeah, I should be free.
Yeah, and let's talk about Dynamite briefly. We talked about the ratings a little bit, but let's talk about the show itself and how they did a decent number at the very least. The show, they had to open up very quickly because they were 30 minutes late. Well, they weren't late. The basketball game, if you were waiting for the show to begin, the basketball game went a little bit late. So Dynamite started at what, like 30 minutes past the hour?
About 30 minutes, yeah. I had to record Transformers on my DVR just to make sure.
Hey, good thing you got that Transformers recorded. But and that was another thing too, some people probably recorded this show and maybe missed that really, really cool ending because of the DVR situation. So that in and of itself, like, they should do a really big job replaying that on Thursday's show, and hopefully Thursday we don't get the same outcome. But it's possible because I think they're playing after an NBA game on Thursday as well. So
I think so.
Who knows? But they opened the show up really quick. Had FTR with Tully Blanchard beating Private Party. Was FTR explained? He was explained with Tully prior to this, correct?
They explain it later in the show.
Yeah, okay. That's where I was confused because I know that conversation happened, and I almost thought it maybe happened on something prior because it was a little weird. No, it was later in the show for sure. Now that you mention it, but yeah, it makes sense for them to be with Tully, so that and it starts making some sense of why they did what they did last week too, and stuff like that. So I like it, and it's good for FTR to have a manager. Not that they necessarily need one, but it does fit their old school gimmick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I like it a lot. The only thing I'm worried about, and it's something you mentioned, is like, are they going to do a 4 horseman deal with Shawn Spears and somebody else? Because I don't think that's the way to do it, man. Like, you can still let Tully do his thing with Shawn Spears if you want. Doesn't really matter. Have him. He's on Dark. Who cares? But definitely keep this one thing. You know, a 3-man group if we're going to go this route. Because. Like you said, I like totally bringing that old school aspect to FTR, which is an old school meat and potatoes kind of tag team. Definitely like it. So they, like you said, they don't need him. They don't need him as a mouthpiece, but like he's fine to add to their promos. Like it doesn't hurt anything at all. Then you can argue it even helps. So definitely into this. The thing I wasn't into was in this match. They were the fans, I should say, were booing the hell out of FTR, and FTR was working kind of heel, and I get it, they were booing them, but like, and Tully's with them. So, but the fans, if this was a real crowd, would not be booing FTR over Private Party. There's not a snowball's chance in hell that they would be booing FTR over Private Party. They would be going wild for FTR, just like they go wild for Hangman when they tease him as a heel. Yeah. Like, they're just cool. Like, people like them. Like, you can't sign the hottest free agents in wrestling and expect the fans to sour on them. So if their idea here is, I can understand them as tweeners. That's fine. Like, just, you know, badasses who do what they want on their own terms. That's cool.
It does kind of make sense, though, after the situation of what they got involved in last week, beating up legends, and then obviously the crowd at that point would probably boo them. But I do agree. It's strange to have that forced booing when that, you know, that's not what we would see if they were, and it's a weird comparison thing because obviously, you know, it would be like obviously they would be cheered, but that's because they're fresh and new and something different for AEW. So in that circumstance, like, yes, they would be cheered, but in storyline circumstance, I get them being booed, but it is kind of a strange dynamic, especially up against Private Party, who, while they are popular, they're not. These are way two different levels still. But the match itself, it gave Private Party a decent rub. They had a good match with FTR. It's definitely not the laying of a feud now, but maybe down the line somewhere it could be. You know, Private Party versus FTR would be a great feud, especially based upon just the flips versus the strictly wrestling.
Yeah, very
mentality.
clashing of styles. Yeah, and to that point, it was a great match. Like you said, everything flowed well. If there was a botch, I certainly didn't notice it because Private Party tends to like sometimes mess up every now and then because they kind of overextend.
What a heel! You know, they are burying them.
They overextend themselves.
I get
sometimes.
it, but that's where being with a team like FTR is perfect because they're true like class. Like they're very good. They're so good that they can help elevate other talent around them. And it's not to say Private Party's bad, but once you're meshed with such a good team, you're not going to have those type of mistakes that we have seen them make in the past. Because you're right. But nonetheless, again, a good match. It was pretty long too. They got a decent amount of time, and I figure that's what we'll get a lot with FTR. The tag team, what was it? Appreciation show doesn't that to me was bullshit. But I know that they want tag teams to be taken more seriously, and the best way to do that is long, interesting matches, and this is just the beginning of that. So
yeah, and you could argue honestly that AEW has the best tag team division in wrestling right now.
Oh, without a doubt. I would love to hear someone argue against that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Even New Japan, despite the fact they probably have some good tag teams, there's not the depth the depth
Like
of AEW.
maybe Dragon Gate, but like Dragon Gate's more of a niche show with a
Yeah.
niche audience. So like major wrestling, like
I
I think
wish Phil was here
AEW.
just to scoff hard at your Dragon Gate mention compared
You know what
to.
I mean,
No,
though.
I feel you though, but that's why Phil should be here because while you're right, it would be fun to have that reaction because I'm sure that if the listeners have got to be thinking kind of the same thing. But AJ's right. Dragon Gate has great tag teams. They're just probably tag teams we haven't really heard of because we're not focused in on Dragon Gate. But AEW hands down the tag team division. They've got it locked up, and it makes sense. But they're also doing other really good things as well. So the build to Mox and MJF, they continued that. John Moxley says MJF is hiding behind his words. He wants to know what he's hiding. He says he does hope that MJF is the future of the company, and he hopes he's right because he wants this company to last for decades. He fires a couple more shots. Ultimately says that Max will not be taking the title on September 5th. So yeah. And they immediately follow that up with MJF, who's standing by with his lawyer. His lawyer makes it clear that the paradigm shift is a deadly move, and they want Mox to sign a contract stating he won't use that move. So that's an interesting story. This is very much an old school type of storyline right here, where it is the schmarmy heel trying to take away the most devastating move from the face's repertoire, and it would give an excuse to do a match afterwards because Max wins, but Mox couldn't use the paradigm shift. It also gives you a chance to introduce a new move for Mox. Maybe he wants to do a new type of finish, something. I don't expect that, but it's an opportunity. What did you think of all of this?
I thought it was good. I thought Mox's promo was kind of weak, because kind of like what Mox said in the promo, like. If MJF should really be digging deep. Like, talk about Mox when he was like this emo kid being all dirty and grungy, and like be like your mom was a junkie or whatever. Dig deep cuts. That's what I want from MJF. I don't want not my champion. I want something where I know MJ, because like with MJF and Cody, those were deep cuts. Like he was going after everything he could go after, but it feels like he's kind of wearing kid gloves, and I feel like that doesn't give a lot for Mox to play off of. Except that you're the bad guy and I'm the good guy, and like to the point where Mox is basically complimenting him in his promo. Like, I want you to be the guy, but you're not going to be the guy. But like MJF, I want to say Kira called it, neck brace. He got it on this week, and I do like that. I like you said, I like the dynamic here. Very old fashioned, but it's not a bad thing at all. Ban the move, give him an edge so that he can win. The only thing I hope is that he doesn't ban the move just to lose
to something else. Yeah, that would suck.
I really don't want that to happen, but we'll see how it goes. I really think this could be a great match, or it could be a mediocre match too.
I was gonna say I'm not gonna go out on a limb on this one. I'm not gonna shit on it just yet. I'm gonna wait and see. But this is gonna be a hard one to close a pay-per-view on. That's all I could say. Depending on what you want to do next, maybe if you have a good debut to really close the show, to challenge one of these guys or something. But just the terms of one of these guys winning. Mainly Max winning, honestly, to close the show with him as the champion. And granted, it is because he's a heel and it's a bad guy. But I'm curious to see how they successfully do that and make it really, really good. And I think that they will. The match itself, we'll see. I want it to be good, and that will be a great sign. If these two can have a great match when they're supposed to be the great talkers, then great. Because you're right, this storyline it's not killing it in terms of the mic use and everything, and it is kind of, it's funny, it's almost MJF's fault. You're right, because he's not feeding into the shit that he should be talking about. It's very surface level, it's very political, it's very modern, but not addressing the stuff that Mox can then respond to, and that's the biggest problem. And you're right. So I do agree, and I think that it led to these promos both being a little bit meh. But it's not. It's still a good storyline. That the story that they're telling, again, the old school vibes. I dig that. It's just when you know that the content could be deeper and heavier, you obviously would want that, and I think that's all there is to that. But it's understandable. After those promos, we get Jurassic Express and the Natural Nightmares defeating the Lucha Brothers and Butcher and the Blade. The match itself was fine, but what was interesting to me, we have Eddie Kingston come out post-match. He rallies the losing team together, all 4 men, actually. And at the end of his promo, stares into the camera slightly and gives a little wink. It was very interesting. Hint to the fact that he's not looking to actually make this a tag team or a group, I don't think. I think he's got something else up his sleeve. But we'll see. What did you think of all of this?
I love anything with Eddie Kingston involved. At first I was upset because I was like, damn, the Lucha Brothers lost. Even though Jurassic Express getting a win isn't a bad thing.
They need
it. But
this is a significant victory, too. Lucha Brothers are a really good team, and Butcher and the Blade have been on quite a roll. So honestly, this is a significant victory.
This is a total bias thing of me not liking it. Like, this is just me liking the Lucha Brothers. So I want to see the Lucha Brothers win all the time. But I was like, damn, that sucks. My boys lost. But then Eddie Kingston comes out, rallies them together, acts like he's going to form a stable, gives the wink. I don't know what the hell is going to happen, but I'm super into it. I really like this. Because obviously the Death Triangle, you can't keep that up while Pac is stuck in the UK. So you might as well get the Lucha Brothers involved with something else. I mean, they're around. You have them, and not using them is ridiculous. So use them for something. Butcher and the Blade have a lot of potential. Butcher is a Haas. I mean, like, we know, let's shout out to Joseph. That's Joseph's boy, and I can understand why. He has a really good presence. He has Big Joseph.
Big Joseph.
But he has a really good presence about him. He looks like a monster, and he's good in the ring. I'm cool with this, and I like the Blade too. But not too much to say about him. But anyways, I like this as a makeshift faction for however long it's going to be. If it's all a trick for Eddie Kingston to get himself over, great. If it's all going to be a stable, great.
It's definitely a strange stable, but I do agree. Like, great. If it is a stable, if Eddie Kingston and the Lucha Brothers and even Butcher and the Blade, like, they get kind of elevated by this. I do think that Eddie looked a little bit I don't know. He didn't look like it, because obviously he doesn't look professional. He's supposed to be like a gangster type guy, like a badass. But it wasn't even. It was just like, you look like a bum kind of because of how he didn't have his shirt all the way. Like, I get it. I get what he was going for, like New York badass, but it just didn't totally hit it. But I still love Eddie Kingston. His promo was decent. It was all decent, but it's just the beginning of whatever this is. Once this becomes more cohesive and they're all kind of on the same page, then it'll be really good. Especially because at the end, Pentagon was like trying to grab Eddie's hand over and over so they could all do the arm thing, and Eddie was like, "We're not fucking doing that, bro." Like, so that to me was kind of funny. When they get more cohesive, it'll make a lot more sense. Right now, it just feels like a really weird pairing. If it was just Eddie and the Lucha Brothers, it would almost make a lot of sense. It can still make sense, but and I'm glad that they had him cut the promo of being like, "Oh, I've rode down the street. I've done this shit with fucking the Blade. I know the Butcher. I've done this with Pentagon, Phoenix. You're the future." Like, the way he put them all over and still explained a relationship with them, because I would never think Eddie Kingston was on the road with the Blade, but the fact that he said it in the ring, like, sure. I still don't necessarily believe it, but it adds that element of, well, they worked the indies together. They all killed the indies. So this was all really good. I liked it.
I liked it too. I think the fact alone that they recognize Eddie can kill it on the mic and he can really bring it whenever he needs to is
and
good.
In the ring,
fact
like, Eddie Kingston is going to be, especially if they make him anything of like a semi-important character, he's going to quickly become one of my favorite AEW guys, just because of his whole New York and it almost sucks that Proud and Powerful. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It almost sucks Proud and Powerful is with Jericho, because they would make a great trio. Those two with Eddie.
God,
you know what I mean?
Right.
That New York vibe of just like some badasses. So maybe one day we'll get some shit like that. But yeah, Eddie just being involved and he's prominent now. He's pushed. He's in a storyline. Like, he's got something cool.
Yeah.
I like that. So this is cool. It's great for him. And I'm interested. It is going to be tough, though, to keep this relevant. They have such a deep roster now and only 2 hours. So after this, we get Britt Baker. She says that Big Swole signed a contract saying she could have any kind of match with Britt, but she didn't say what kind of match. She's joined backstage by Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian for a segment I really didn't love. She bribes Penelope to join by saying that Reba will do her makeup for a year. This is after offering them both free dental care for a year. But it's the makeup. It's the makeup that sells Penelope. And to me, it just made Penelope look really stupid. If I was Penelope, I would have been like, well, can I get something else? Can't she give me something else? Like, can I be treated a little bit more seriously than whatever this is? But at the end of the day, they're paired up, and there's a reason behind it. It's not just they're randomly in a trio against Big Swole. So I get that. And I guess I just hope they win against Big Swole.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern with Penelope looking stupid in the promo is I don't want her to look dumb in the promo and lose in the match despite the fact it's a handicap match. Because if she's just there to take the pin, like, man, even though yes, Reba doesn't wrestle, and Britt Baker is injured. So she is kind of in a handicap, but still, she in a singles should be beating Big Swole, in my opinion. So I just like Penelope more. There's more history there. She has a reason. So for her to lose to Big Swole right now in a handicap like this would just kill any momentum she's built, I guess. So I don't know if I would say she should beat Big Swole in a singles match if it were ever Penelope versus Swole. But this will just be stupid. So hopefully her accepting the deal, they win, and somehow it continues from that, because anything else is just going to make Penelope look bad after looking really great for the last couple months. So
exactly, they've built her up so well to where she's really in this limited women's division that we have right now. She's really stuck out and shined as one of the top characters, one of the top wrestlers in that division. And, you know, she can work, she can talk, she's great at what she does. She has Kip with her, and that kind of adds something to the element. Like, it makes her stand out even more. And if she's just taking the pin in a handicap match, and I hate to say it, but Britt Baker and Big Swole it's not a bad angle, but it's kind of comedic. It's kind of silly, and it's been over the top, and it's been a little ridiculous. And it doesn't make me think, wow, this has women's title implications. Like, there's nothing like that in my mind. It's like, this is a grudge match. That's fine. So don't bury Penelope doing it. If it was some woman who
it's almost
is
this
on
feud,
Dark,
honestly, because of how little they've done to make Swole actually want to beat up Britt. It almost has like done nothing for Swole and kind of made her look stupid. Like, you couldn't find anything else to occupy your time with in this company, but this time, like, like, think about it in real life. Like, if she was really if wrestling was real and she's just constantly trying to fight Britt instead of becoming a women's champion or anything, like, it's like, why are you wasting your time on someone who has done next to nothing to you? Like, what has Britt really done to Swole?
Nothing. She's always just the one throwing garbage on her and fucking with her.
Yeah, she said some shitty stuff, but that's about it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I don't understand. Like, she wasn't even the target whenever she did her conspiracy theory thing. Like, her target was Aubrey Edwards, and Big Swole just came out, and it's like, I don't understand. Like, you're just really throwing these two at each other. They're not.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of chemistry. It's not like. And in the meantime, you could have been building up Big Swole in matches, having her get over, having her look like a strong character, because you need strong characters right now. You need strong wrestlers. Because
and exactly. If you make Swole look stronger during any of this time, then of course we're in a much better situation. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a hard part too. She didn't win the tag team tournament. I don't even know if Britt is the one who cost her, because the tournament meant so little to me. I didn't check that match. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think Britt was involved at all. But
and talk about an even worse thing. Like, cost her something. Make her have a reason. Like, so and yeah, that's just my issue with that. And it's I don't know. I just want Penelope especially to be someone who is elevated a little more. The women's division, one of the biggest, taken a little more seriously. That's one of the biggest problems for the women's division. It's just that no one in the division is really taken that serious. And what can you do with that? So
it's so disappointing because of how good the women's division was out of the gate to how it is now. And I understand the circumstances, but there is shit you could do. There is shit you could do to make this better.
Fair enough, they are. And we'll get to that point in a little bit.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Instead of burying the feud that has gone on way too long for much longer, we'll just I'm ready for a match, so cool that they're getting a handicap match out of the way, but weird to do that right before All Out. Maybe Britt is fine, and she's going to kill Swole in this handicap match, and that's the story they're planning to tell.
That'd be cool.
I would be cool with that if all of a sudden Britt just like jumps in the ring and starts beating the shit out of her after sitting on the apron for so long, and that's how we get the singles match. That would actually make a lot of sense to me. So maybe that's what we'll do. Going forward, someone who is taken seriously, who a lot of people might not have expected, Orange Cassidy. He comes out for his first in-ring interview. Chris Jericho cuts him off, congratulates Orange Cassidy, said that he's proven he's got what it takes to make it in AEW. But Jericho wants a rubber match. He suggests the Mimosa Mayhem match. The only way to win is pinfall, submission, or to be dumped in a tank of mimosa.
Yep.
This was.
I don't know how I feel about this either.
Hold on, let me see.
Joseph.
Nope, that's not it.
Carol Bam.
Nope, that's
Saturday,
not it.
September
Here we go.
5th. Revenge will be served freshly squeezed in the first ever Mimosa Mayhem match. What will happen when 80 gallons of 100% pure orange juice
80 gallons?
is mixed at
80
ringside
gallons.
with 500 cases of a little bit
No,
of the bubbly?
no, bubbly.
Only way to win is by pinfall, submission, or being
get
thrown
no,
into a tank
no.
of straight mimosa.
Oh my god, a tank of mimosa. Can you believe it? I fucking love this. I am so in love with this. That's why I clipped it up.
The Mimosa Mayhem match.
This is going to be awesome. Chris Jericho created the most amazing match type once again. He's done it once again. I feel like they say that in the promo.
So there you go, Orange.
Yeah, I missed it. I didn't get that part. He said, Chris Jericho has done it once again. This is amazing. I loved it. I love everything about this. And granted, it is stupid. Jericho is going to be able to lose the feud without being pinned.
Here's the thing. It's stupid, but Chris Jericho kind of thrives on stupid. Like, he's good at making stupid interesting.
Yes, even the promo video was stupid but fucking awesome. It was like, how do you go this over the top for something that is not serious at all? But I love it, dude, and I'm excited. I think it's funny that, again, like I said, Jericho's going to probably lose this feud without actually ever really losing to Orange Cassidy. He's going to take the roll-up loss and then getting tossed into some orange juice. So it's cool. Like I said, it's very goofy, but for Orange Cassidy, it makes sense. And the fact that if this is successful, they could bring this match back. Just the thought process. It's Orange Cassidy. You could.
You're right.
So I love it, and I'm excited for it, and I'm glad they did that promo. If they didn't do the promo for it, I would hate it, and it would be awful. But the fact that they went all in, that they went all in right then, yeah.
I think I like it, especially because you kind of do need a gimmick match if we're doing the, I forget what it's called, booking, the backwards, one win, one loss.
50-50?
Now we have to have the rubber 50-50. Thank you. 50-50 booking.
50-50
I know,
brother.
right? But anyways, I like it because if you're gonna do that, then yeah, do a gimmick match. Why not? Do anything as long as it's something interesting.
What kind of rubber match do you do for something that really isn't all that serious? Like
yeah,
they already did the goofy $7,000 match. So how much goofier can we make it? And they did. And like I said, I really do love it. You can't do like a last man stand. This isn't like a killer grudge match. They don't necessarily hate each other's guts. It's much more comedic, and it's honestly great for both of them. It shows that Jericho can do something that's not super serious and get someone else over. So I love that. Just that fact in it of itself is exciting. And Orange Cassidy and being in this match, it's just it all works out so perfectly that I'm ready for it. And that's it all out, right? That's on the pay-per-view, right?
That's all out. That is all out.
That's going to be a fun show, man. And what an interesting situation that's going to be, because they're definitely going to sell tickets for that.
Yeah, at least 10%, 15% capacity for sure.
Maybe even more. I feel like that's a show where they try to push it a little bit, you know what I mean?
Maybe.
Obviously not a ton, but still 20% wouldn't be too shocking.
Yeah, it's a big arena too, and it's outdoors, open air, so.
And that's the thing, it's open air, and they have the luxury of kind of being teamed up with the NFL, who has to be trying to look for ways to bring fans into what they have going on. AEW is $1 million company, but the NFL is $1 billion company, and he has the association right there. Like, the Daily's Place is part of Jacksonville Stadium, right? So they're probably trying to figure out what they're going to do for Jacksonville Stadium. Okay, well, let's test it out at AEW and do it on a smaller scale. And so they're getting a ton of help, and this is just going to copy. The NFL is going to copy AEW. It's not going to be like what's happening in WWE where they're copying the NBA. It's honestly going to be the other way around, where I feel like AEW is really the NFL's test dummies, and that's why they're going to get like. And there hasn't been a lot of flack for it because major organizations don't want to see them get flack for it because how else are you going to do sports? Like this could be the way that sporting events are done for whoever knows how long. So I'm interested, and especially with the fact that there's a pay-per-view coming up, I'm interested in that. We got way off topic there, though.
No, I think, I think the only flag people are getting for it is that it's Florida, and that's reasonable. But
sure.
other than that, you're right. Like it's really an open air stadium, outdoors. Like and like
no
I
one's
think
getting
Brian
beheaded
Alvarez
on
mentioned
television, so we have that.
Yeah, like, I
Did you
think
see
Brian
that?
Alvarez. I did not. What are you talking about?
You know how they're doing the screens in WWE? And like people can stream in and shit. Yeah, someone put like a real beheading video in that. There was
I
like,
only know about Pikachu. Fuck's sake, man.
yeah, someone put Benoit in there. Like there are a lot of ways that this can go wrong when you're dealing with a fan base like the professional wrestling fan base. Obviously, not all of us want to understand that, but there are definitely wrestling fans who are shitty. It worked in the NBA because people can be mature and they want to see fun there. It might not work in WWE. So
yeah, no, definitely not.
So on the opposite side of the spectrum, they're letting fans in, but we're not getting that shit. So,
but what I was gonna say is, Brian Alvarez mentioned like, okay, let's say a guy with COVID goes in here and he's a fan. Maybe he'll get another fan sick, but he's not going to get an announcer sick. He's not going to get a ring crew member sick. He's not going to get a wrestler sick.
Well, he's probably not going to get fans sick either. You know what I mean? Because they are so separated and they're doing a good job at it. But he's right, and you're right.
And to that end, like nobody in AEW is in danger by doing that.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it is good that, like I said, they're taking precaution. They're trying, and again, like I said, you have to look at. This is a different way to avoid the problems that WWE is now facing by trying to incorporate the crowd that way. And they also have the luxury of it being Daly's place. Like, who would have thought the fact that they now tape with a wall as the background essentially would benefit them because we don't know how many fans are there. Like, the fact that we don't know how many fans are there, it all kind of works out well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, all of these things combined, it's just very interesting. But back on Dynamite, on the topic of Dynamite, the next match we have to talk about is the Elite taking on the Dark Order. This was only about an 11.5-minute match. Again, the most interesting part about this match was what happened afterwards. Kenny goes to powerbomb, I want to say it was 5, on a chair. But dude,
I get these guys confused. I have no idea.
The Young Bucks bring they move the chair. Kenny just power bombs the guy on the mat, and he's like, "What the fuck is your problem?" This was honestly like super funny, but super cool because of how serious it was. Kenny has the chair set up upside down, essentially, with the legs pointing up. He's ready to destroy this man by power bombing him onto the chair. The Young Bucks pull the chair away. And yeah, I thought this was really interesting. Kenny, of course, back on his little like evil ways. It's the Young Bucks who have to bring him back from it too. I thought that was a little interesting.
Here's an interesting note that I read, and so I don't want to say this is for sure true, but I read it on 411 that in picture, and if you're watching on Fight, they got heat on Kenny, and I think it involved a chair. And they were getting a lot of heat on him on the outside and fucking with him. And that's why he was so pissed. That's why he was going crazy Kenny. And so it may have seemed a little out of the blue for the TV audience because you didn't get to see that heat on TV, which is, I think, a really weird production error if that's the case. And like really should have shown that. But either way, it was cool. Like Kenny always looking crazy isn't a bad thing. So I'm not going to bitch about it. I just thought I'd point that out. But yeah, this was crazy, man. Like you said, the most interesting thing was the end. The match was good too, though. It was a solid match. But definitely Kenny was gonna murder him on that chair. And I love that Kenny's kind of going crazier and crazier. And honestly, if they turned Kenny heel, I wouldn't be mad about it at all.
No, and it's all very interesting. I don't think he's gonna turn heel. I do think that it's all just like build up
herrings.
yeah, kind of that type of thing. But you never know, and especially with how that's why it's all so confusing. Again, them trying to push the booing thing is because, okay, if Kenny's supposed to be the face, why is he like leaning into this? And granted, he's not really. I just see such a. That's why it's weird as well. He has a storyline going on with the Dark Order while simultaneously having a storyline going on with FTR. Like, because him beating down this guy was about the Dark Order, right? He was like yelling about Brody too, I think, at some point. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing that's going on. We're gonna have to wait and see totally, but it is weird. Again, like I said, with Kenny having stuff going on with FTR and now this, it's a little bit hard to follow.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot going on at once, and they should probably pick a lane. But I can't imagine. Like, I mean, they beat the Dark Order, and unless Kenny's gonna directly go after Brody, I don't know.
Well, but to that point, it kind of makes sense. Like, he has so much shit going on that he's gonna snap. Like, he's got to deal with FTR and them pulling his tag team partner away from him, and he's got to deal with the Dark Order attacking his guy Cody and all this shit. So yeah, very interesting. And I thought that this was interesting ahead of what closed the show, which again we'll get to that. After that, we have Alex Marvez. He's interviewing Tully and FTR, and they announced that a gauntlet match will happen next week to determine who is going to challenge for the tag titles at All Out.
Really cool.
Yes, a really, really cool way to do this. The tag match will follow the top 5 rankings, with FTR being the last team involved. Again, a smart way to do this. So finally a smart way to utilize your rankings. Team 5 and Team 4 started off, and then from there, Team 3 comes in, Team 2, and then Team 1. So this is going to be a lot of fun. I like this, and after this, they have Hangman. He shows up. He's furious about what happened last week, talking about how they attacked the Rock and Roll Express. FTR says that's their business, has nothing to do with Paige, but that Rock and Roll Express disrespected them. They see that they had to see if they could trust Young Bucks and Hangman. That's why they faked the knee injury to see if Hangman was a trustable person, and he and Dash was the only two to go back and check on him.
Yeah, and Doc Samson and whatever.
Yeah, so this was all kind of long. And it's hard for me to read those long promos. But it wasn't bad. They're just explaining essentially what's going on and sort of bringing Hangman into the fold. And honestly, this is the first time I've got a feeling that maybe Hangman doesn't do what we think he's going to do. Maybe this doesn't become a trio. And that might just be me. But him just...
No, I get that too.
Kind of talking about how they kind of pointing out the shitty stuff that they did for the first time yet was interesting. So we'll see. And it's good to have that. It's good to have that false sense of, well, maybe he won't, because when he does, it's going to be even better.
Yeah, and you can kind of see on both sides, well, not really both sides, but mostly FTR kind of manipulating Paige and being like, the Young Bucks want you under their shadow, and they want to keep you behind the scenes where that's where they think you belong. And Hangman obviously would be one to buy into this, but is he going to buy into it is the question. Like, who would he trust at the end of the day? And probably ultimately the answer is his partner Kenny Omega, not the Young Bucks, not FTR, but Kenny. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's interesting to me, because ultimately FTR and every other person in that gauntlet match is his enemy.
Well, and the only person to, and it's even hard, like, this whole story with Hangman, at this point, I love it. I hated it when we had to start it and when we were really getting into it, and it's kind of funny. It's like, they were kind of doing the Daniel Bryan thing. Not exactly the Daniel Bryan thing, so don't let me get people worked up, but like, of burying him a little bit, making him seem like they weren't giving him as much as we thought he should have gotten, and we kind of got pissed about it and got on his side, and now... he's just the coolest fucking guy, you know what I mean? To us, especially. So I think it's interesting.
You're spot on with the Daniel Bryan thing, except in this case, they did it on purpose instead of just trying to bury Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, and it worked. It really, really worked. And it's funny because other companies have tried to recapture that magic and it hasn't worked, but it did work here, and that's what makes it make sense that he will turn on the Bucks because it worked. Like the fact, like he has a good reason to, because of they really did keep him in the background, and that he was kind of the second fiddle to everything they had going on. But now it's gonna pay off, and I love it. So this is really cool. And the deeper you dive into that feud, the cooler it gets. Like, that's one that could really have. It's going to have lasting impact on AEW just because it's going to last forever.
Oh, yeah, and take this with a grain of salt, but I was talking to Andrew about it before we started the podcast. On Being the Elite, Brody Lee was just burying Hangman left and right. So I don't know what implications that has, Kenny has some stuff going on with the Dark Order. Now Brody's angry at Hangman for some reason. So I don't know. Maybe there's going to be more with the Dark Order and Hangman and Kenny. But it's definitely interesting. There's a lot of cards on the table right now, and I really don't know which direction we're going in.
Yeah, and we'll see. And that's where coming out of All Out is going to be fun, because that's when we'll sort of have an idea. But it's also fun going into All Out because they've got a lot of stuff going on. After that interview, we get Darby Allin defeating Will Hobbs in about 3 minutes, which is, I don't love that. I like Will Hobbs. He's a big dude.
I like Will Hobbs
cool.
too.
Losing to Darby, especially in 3 minutes, isn't the best, but whatever.
Yeah. I know, I agree with that. Will Hobbs should definitely. I understand it needs to be a short match. Maybe it can be like 5 minutes or something. Anything.
Let him get some type of offense, because he is a bigger guy. Like, he should have been steamrolling Darby for 2 minutes, and then Darby gets a 3-minute comeback. But nonetheless, Taz comes out post-match, says there's a new member of Team Taz. His name is Darby 2. Ricky Starks comes out dressed just like Darby Allin. I thought this was kind of funny, but obviously an old school thing. Starks cuts a great edgy promo on Darby, trying to be like Darby.
Emo written on him.
Yeah, it was really fun, and it's cool because this makes sense from this kind of these two type of guys, honestly. Like, Darby's kind of the emo, edgy guy, and he just fucked up the preppy guy. So now the preppy guy is doing the only way he really knows how to get back at him is by bullying him, and so it makes sense. Brian Cage attacks Darby from behind. Starks gets in the ring, calls him a joke, a clown, and the difference between them is he doesn't need face paint to be somebody. Then they finish him off with a skateboard, and Ricky Starks does a coffin drop. No save from Mox this time. Apparently, Mox just doesn't care about Darby this week. And it makes sense. They're just not going down that storyline path. But it is funny. Like, this week is the week he doesn't get saved. But this beatdown has definitely happened before and ended a little differently.
But I am interested because it looks like for now it's probably going to be Starks and Darby, which is cool. But down the line, maybe Darby needs a partner. Maybe Darby, and if MJF does beat Moxley, then maybe you could fit in Brian Cage and Starks versus Darby and Mox, and that would be pretty cool.
The weird thing is I want to see Cage in a match at the pay-per-view, but I feel like it's going to be Ricky Starks versus Darby, or maybe we get Ricky and Cage against Darby in a secret partner.
That'd be cool. I'd be down with any of that. I want to see Cage in the pay-per-view too. But what I was also going to say is I really like that Ricky Starks, because I watched a bit of NWA. I know you and Phil really didn't. But he really is a good promo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's a great promo. And I really like that he got to flex here and just show off how good he is on the mic. Because he's good in the ring. He's not like mind-blowing in the ring. But on the mic and his character and the way he carries himself, it all really comes together into a really good package that Ricky Starks is.
He was really a good signing. He was a really good signing and coming into his own.
He's a guy you could really see going into the future as a person, a prominent person.
He just feels like a guy.
Not,
like, he feels important. Yeah. Something about him feels important. Sometimes wrestlers get introduced and they just don't feel important. There's nothing about him. Something and it honestly might just be that it factor. He kind of has a lot of similarities to Sammy. But maybe even a little bit more of that it factor than Sammy. Maybe it's because of his build. Maybe he's a little bit taller. But something about him. I really like Ricky Starks, too. So I like this. And, again, I wouldn't mind seeing Brian Cage on the pay-per-view in some way. So that's where I'm confused in this. And maybe they're going to do some type of, like, casino battle royale, number one contenders type thing, which they could probably use right now, honestly. Granted, how long ago was it that we did the ladder match? So maybe not, but to introduce someone new into the main event picture, they need to do something.
They definitely do, but I have faith that they can really push Ricky Starks in this direction and do him justice. Even if he were to lose, I think they could still, like, salvage that with continuing the feud and going forward with it. And I'm really into this, man, because I love Darby.
Talk about a win, though. Like, a lose, but what if he wins? That's a very significant victory. Kind of puts him up there as one of the top heels already. So,
and they need top heels, really.
No doubt. We just mentioned him, Sammy. After that, was doing his card gimmick in picture before he was attacked by Matt Hardy with a chair. We come back live, and Matt throws Sammy off the stage and through a table. He grabs a chair to chuck at Sammy, but the referee stops him. So just building up to, like, some type of again, a stipulation match, but this one would make sense. Last man standing, falls count anywhere type of shit. And that's where they're going. And I'm excited to see that too, because Matt versus Sammy is going to be an impressive match, especially with a stipulation. And hopefully Sammy wins that one. So,
Yeah. Again, being the Elite, don't know if it's relevant, but Sammy or Matt was looking for Sammy in the back after the show had already ended, waiting for him to leave. Young Bucks go over to him and they say, "Do you want us to fire him? That'd be a better receipt than throwing the chair at him." And he goes, "After I lay him bloody in the ring and after I give him the receipt, then yeah, fire him." And then after he leaves, the Young Bucks go, "So should we fire him?" And they go, "Sammy or Matt?" And then they say Sammy, and they go, "Yeah." and so I don't know if this is gonna lead to a stipulation or something, but I just thought that was funny. But I really like where this is going. I just hope Matt Hardy doesn't get too silly. I really like the serious form of Matt Hardy where he's just all business. I want to give this motherfucker the receipt. I want to fuck him up. I want to
getting
leave him bloody.
smashed in the face with a chair kind of forced him to be serious, and it's like a weird. And I think Jericho said it right after it happened. It was going to be some type of like blessing in disguise situation, and that's kind of what it was. So, a good way to build up that feud. That's exactly the way to do it. Not necessarily through wrestling matches, but through segments. We get another segment after this featuring the NWA Women's Champion, Thunder Rosa. She's here to answer Hikaru Shida's challenge. She says she's going to put the women's division on the map where it deserves to be. And at the pay-per-view, she will come for Hikaru Shida's championship. This was really cool. I really like Thunder Rosa. I haven't seen a lot of her matches, but just her appearance, her gimmick. Another strong Latin women wrestler like that. That in of itself is all it takes. And I've heard a lot of positive things about her as well. So I'm excited for this one. Honestly, I'm very, very excited. It's going to be a good match. It's a smart way to bring in a reliable contender for Hikaru Shida because you really didn't have a lot of that on the roster. Kind of steps over Nyla Rose a little bit, but I'm okay with that. And maybe she gets involved after this match or maybe even in the match, but that's the only person I feel like they stepped over. Everyone else, and that's not to say, because I definitely didn't want Nyla versus Hikaru again, so I see why they did it, and it makes sense, but she, even in character, should be upset.
Yeah, and I think she will be. And I think that's going to be an interesting dynamic because I feel like, again, if you do, like you said, Hikaru and Nyla again right away, that's going to be weird. But if you break it up with Thunder Rosa, then you have more time to build on that Nyla and Hikaru feud. And also, what I really liked about this is they didn't pretend she wasn't the NWA champion.
They made her automatically important.
Yep. She is a champion of NWA. I don't know if this means that, because, I mean, they've been using a lot of NWA guys, including Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks, and now Thunder Rosa. And so I don't know if they have a relationship or if they're just saying, hey, can we use these guys since you guys aren't running any shows?
It's probably a little bit of both, you know what I mean? More or less, it's probably NWA being almost like thankful, like, yeah, please pay my talent so they can have something to do because we're not running anything, and for the time being, just do it because we're not running anything and we won't be for a while. So,
and if that leads to a relationship down the line where we can see like Nick Aldis with the strap coming out and facing people, awesome, I'm all for it. And if it's just a minor thing where we're bringing in NWA, because NWA's roster is pretty strong. They all are pretty good workers. They're good on the mic. They have. All of them now have at least studio experience, not TV exactly, but they have experience being on the camera. And so there's a lot of room here for a good partner. Like, because we always talk about, they're going to partner with New Japan, or they're going to partner with Ring of Honor, they're going to partner with, but like those are reaches. Like that's really reaching. But if you partner with somebody like NWA, who isn't a huge promotion, but does have a lot of talented men and women on their roster, that could really benefit them.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That type of relationship is smart, and it just helps both sides a lot. And again, you get the capability of bringing in an interesting talent like Thunder Rosa, an interesting talent like Ricky Starks, among other people. So it's a smart relationship to make and elevates both sides to an extent. So it's really, really smart. Continuing on the women's side of things, we have Vita Scott join the commentary booth and get Ivelisse and Diamante winning the women's tournament over the Nightmare Sisters. This was a surprise to me. I didn't expect the Nightmare Sisters to actually lose, which I guess I should have. We should have known that Cody wouldn't run two tournaments just to put himself and his girlfriend over, but Well, I mean, honestly, giving credit to Cody, just the fact of that, he's not gonna say, okay, I win a tournament and then turn around and have Brandy win a tournament and them not be heels. Maybe if they were heels, he would be okay with it. But I really, really think we should have been smart enough to know Cody's not that naive. But nonetheless,
Did you see the Road to Dynamite that they did?
no, because they're not consistent. They don't do shit like that often
No,
enough
but
for me to know it's coming.
I ended up watching it, and Tony interviewed Brandy, who's full on heel now. And he asked, "How do you sleep at night knowing that there are people who think you set up this tournament just so you could win a championship?" And she was like, "I sleep fine. I'm an influencer. Blah blah blah, yada yada." But that made me think, if you want to go this Allie versus Brandy route, you can't have Allie and Brandy win.
Yeah.
Because then Brandy's
Was it
not
for
going to have
titles
anybody.
or no?
It was for the cup.
Okay.
But you can't have Brandy be pissed at anybody. You can't have her blame anybody. You can't have her do it. Then they just won. And not that I want to see it, but they are going to go with Allie and Brandy at All Out. I'm sure of that.
I feel like it makes no sense at this point. To have done a cup is kind of stupid because you're not going to continue with Ivelisse and Diamante as a tag team, just randomly having tag team matches unless you plan to introduce a title soon. And if you plan to introduce a title soon, guess what? You just had a fucking tournament you could have introduced it in. So why did you do the tournament? That is where, and of course, maybe there still is a reason, and it's yet to be seen. But in terms of just that's where I'm at. It's why they win a cup, but that's it. Are they going to defend the cup? Is the cup anything important? Are there going to be other women tag teams coming around? You didn't really build anything in this tournament. Big Swole and Little Swole never teamed again. There's nothing. There's nothing that was built through this except for the continuation of the Nightmare Sisters and I guess Ivelisse and Diamante, who are now seen as the elite women's tag team in AEW with no competitors. So
yeah, exactly. If you
they're almost worst off in the position.
The problem with the tournament in general was doing the random drawing thing, because it's you're not building tag teams, you're not building relationships between people. You're just throwing people together because you don't have enough people to build those relationships. So why even bother? I would love to see Ivelisse and Diamante have actual competitors and be an actual tag team.
It was really weird. Honestly, it was just a weird AEW dark tournament. If you
really
think about
was.
it, that's kind of what it was. Just a bunch of jobbers and 4 people they wanted to win.
Yeah.
But whatever. I don't want to bury the tournament super bad. I just wish that I felt like there was something coming afterwards. It was going to lead to something. Something was going to be there. And I just didn't. I don't feel that coming from this.
And the answer is it's going to be Allie and Brandy, which sucks.
So and they'll probably continue. They'll have to continue on with it next week if they want to do that because the pay-per-view is next Saturday. So yeah. They then announced what we have on tap for next Thursday. We have Jericho returning to commentary, the number 1 contender tag team's gauntlet match. So Natural Nightmares versus the Young Bucks versus Best Friends versus FTR. Matt Hardy versus Sammy G in a tables match, despite the fact they're having a blood feud over chairs. Mox and MJF are going to do a contract signing, and Big Swole will take on Britt Baker, Penelope Ford, and I want to say that Reba will be involved in that match as well. So I want to say
I'm not sure. I just copied verbatim what they said, but I'm excited for Jericho to be on commentary. Love that right away out of the gate. You've already helped me. And
especially if Taz is still there, I would like that. Taz and Jericho together.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. And the gauntlet match, that's enough to get me to watch the whole show.
I hope it should be an hour-long gauntlet match. To be honest,
it should be. Yeah. If it's not at least 30 minutes, I'm going to be this is disappointing. But
there's a team you didn't list in here. Natural Nightmares, Young Bucks, Best Friends, FTR. Who would be the third team? Or the fifth team, I should say.
You're right.
We'll figure it out here in a second. But, nonetheless, an interesting card for next week's show. Very, very interesting, I would say. But
I'm just looking it up real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem. It's cool that they're doing a gauntlet match like this in general. It makes sense. It's not just tossed together because we have seen a lot of gauntlet matches in WWE, I want to say, over the last 2 years probably because they become really, really popular once again. And I'm glad they waited until one made sense, not just, let's do one off the cuff. Let's actually make it make sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Natural Nightmares, Young Bucks, Best Friends, FTR. That's what 401 is listing.
Natural Nightmares, Young Bucks, Best Friends, FTR. Yeah, so maybe they haven't listed the 5th one because they're gonna update the rankings or something. That would would make sense to me.
I assume it's gonna be the Dark Order.
Yes, Dark Order probably, or maybe even Jurassic Express can sneak back in there because they had a bit of a significant 8-man match victory this week. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly, but I do know that it will be a 5-team match, and just that in and of itself should make for a very, very fun match. So
yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited for this.
And a match that I wasn't excited for, but turns out it was very exciting. Brody Lee defeated Cody Rhodes in 3 minutes and 12 seconds for the TNT
Squashed
title.
Him.
An absolute squash match. Afterwards, the Dark Order celebrate. Brody tells Tony people like him created this monster, and now he's a problem for AEW. And they literally destroy the Nightmare family. Beat Cody down.
Cody off the stretcher.
Kicked him off the stretcher. It was kind of weird because it took him a minute to even get to that point. We were kind of just waiting around. At least that's how I felt. Like I was like, I felt like something was coming, but I didn't know what was coming, especially because they were like, "Oh, Cody's hurt," and you were like, "Okay, what the fuck is gonna happen?" They destroyed them. They had Anna Jay choke out Brandy. I thought that was kind of weird. It just didn't look as badass. And I'll immediately say it's because I tuned into that part late. I watched that after your guys' excitement, so I had expectations that were pretty high. And when it was good but not that high, I was like, okay.
Yeah, seeing it live, I was like, holy fuck, this is crazy. The Dark Order looks legit for like the first time in who knows how long, maybe ever. The Dark Order ran roughshod over the whole company, basically. Kinda. And Brody squashed him in like 3 fucking minutes. And Cody got no offense in whatsoever. I was watching Io and Dakota Kai. And because I assumed okay, this is going to be a 15-minute match. So I'm watching it, and then I look up, and I'm like, Cody's getting his ass kicked.
And what a smart way to do that, too. Like, you know what I mean? In terms of making... They didn't give it away by putting this match on with 5 minutes left where you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
There was plenty of time, and then the match went 3 minutes, and you were like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. I was dumbfounded, man. This was so cool. And I know we were talking about it man, I don't want Brody to win. And there is still that extent to why not Archer? But to the other extent, I guess you do have Brody and a bunch of other.
And they've now taken over TNT, so
yeah. You have Brody and his squad, and Lance Archer doesn't have that. So you could make that argument. I still am kind of why not Archer if we were going to do this? But still,
it solidifies the Dark Order. It makes them look really, really strong now. They finally have that official something, and it's not the world title, which it didn't need to be the world title. And it's kind of cool. I didn't love it. Even in watching it, I was like, man, I don't love Brody as champion. That's my biggest thing, because I was having fun with the open challenge. I don't know necessarily that we will continue that at this point. I wouldn't assume so. So just that fact especially. I really liked the open challenge thing, and obviously you're eventually going to get a champion who doesn't make sense to do that. But that was my biggest disappointed takeaway with it. Otherwise, this was great. It was a great quick squash match. Brody getting the victory, like I said, destroying Cody, destroying the Nightmare family, destroying Brandy. All of that was really, really cool, but just a little bit off for me. Not to say that it won't get better. I thought that it was all good, and it might have just been Anna Jay choking out Brandy. Honestly, I didn't love that.
I honestly don't remember it that much. I know she choked her out, but I don't remember how it
the
looked,
way that
so
she went up to her and stuff. And again, you guys were in the moment. It was fresh for you. It was what the fuck is going on? For me, I was like, okay, I know what's going on. How does she choke her out? What a weird way to get into a chokehold. That's the way I took it. But nonetheless, honestly, a great close to Dynamite. Had people talking. Like we said, the ratings for the show were great for a Saturday night on a whole different day, a whole different time. Well, not a whole different time, but nonetheless, 30 minutes later than they're usually supposed to go to. So, yeah, I liked all of this. This was all really interesting. Wow, this is an interesting note that I'm reading, too. Following the brutal attack by Brody Lee's Dark Order, Cody is expected to be off AEW TV for a while. PWI Insider reported today that Cody will be off TV for an extended period to sell the beating he took. So that's interesting, especially with and you don't want to run back to a match with those two, but I would have expected Cody to be facing Brody at All Out. Now
That's what I was assuming, and
now
I really
maybe
didn't
it
want
will
that.
be Dustin.
That'd be interesting. Just give him
on
another kind of
paper
beatdown.
Is garbage. On
But it's
paper
it's
is
what
a
we've always
garbage
wanted,
match.
though.
Yes.
It's what we've always wanted, of just Dustin getting the shit kicked out of him.
It's just, watch, it still won't happen. But yes, you're right. And honestly, because Dustin really hasn't been around a lot, he's probably on Dark maybe more often than anything. But that's someone I really, now that I think about it, I haven't seen a lot of. So, I was reading up or checking out AEW news because we're about done covering Dynamite, but wanted to make sure, with it being a different day that we're doing the podcast, that we cover any news. And that is a very interesting news note. Cody being off AEW TV for a while.
That's really cool.
And that's, like I said, that's cool. I think you just said that's cool, but I agree with you. That's cool because one, sell the injury. That's important. And two, Cody is always a very important piece of AEW TV. Let's let someone else be on TV. Even if it is, like, I don't know who really has associated with Cody. Oh, fuck. It's going to be Cardona, bro. I'm with that, honestly.
Oh,
At
my
this
God.
point,
That's what I was going to say.
That.
I forgot to say, where the fuck was Matt Cardona when the Nightmare Family was getting the shit kicked out of them? I had a note written down and everything. Where the fuck was Matt Cardona? Was he just in catering? I don't know.
Maybe he just wasn't brought in for the show. That part might make sense, but I think that he could be the guy. Maybe he's the guy who decides to fight Brody, stepping up for Cody. I would really like that opposed to Dustin, even though Dustin, it does have that, obviously, the brotherly thing, but it would help Cardona, I think, and he would be a perfect person for Brody to beat on a pay-per-view. Like, it would, because he kind of comes in looking strong. Yeah, I like it. And who knows if that's where they go, but that's where I'm calling it for.
Preemptively, let's just...
Well, in terms of people who I would want to see focused on TV, if it's not going to be Cody, I would be okay with it being Cardona over Dustin. Like, he can come out, cut a promo.
Totally agree.
Feels like someone who will be an important piece of AEW for 10 to 15 years. At that point, Dustin will be a producer. So, yeah, just that stuff. I'm excited, though, just in that news note. Let's see. Again...
Big shout out to Big Joseph, though, who will almost certainly post a video of the WWE
Big
Superstars
Joseph.
match.
Oh, yes.
Of Luke Harper versus Zack Ryder and go, this is their title match. Just going to preemptively give him that shout out.
Big Joseph.
If you guys are wondering where we got our Big Joseph drop, shout out to everybody's guy, Dexter Loomis from NXT, for recording a cameo for our boy Joseph.
Big Joseph.
And we have now ripped that fantasy football cameo and used it as a part of our podcast. So thank you, Joseph, the always AEW hater. We have
Joseph.
A
Big
great
Joseph.
drop. I don't see a whole lot of other news that we really need to comment on. There's not a whole lot.
We're on Twitch now.
We are on Twitch. Make sure you follow us on Twitch. We're going to be streaming there hopefully more often. I went from being a lot less busy to being very busy with school and shit starting back up. But hopefully we will get the time to do more of that. Our next podcast should be Thursday after Dynamite. If not, you can find us Friday morning, I'm sure, on Spotify and all those happy things. Thank you guys for continuing to tune in and support the podcast. AJ, is there anything else that you think we should cover? We are not going to give you the top 5 moments of AEW Dark because I find it ridiculous that they shove 13 matches down people's throats as a means to
13.
Yes, it's just to stack the win-loss record, and it's hard for me to shit on this because I think it's really smart. Like, it's honestly a really, really smart reason or way.
And it's giving wrestlers a booking, which is cool.
For like, little kid me would love Dark. I would watch it all the time. I would just to see these guys always win. So in that sense, I love it. And again, in terms of, well, you only have 2 hours of TV. How do you get people wins and losses that they're supposed to have? How do you build up Lance Archer to all of a sudden have 10 wins and no one fucking seen it coming? Put it on Dark, and they happened, and people can go back and see them. It's it's a step better than just making up wins and losses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We can at least physically see them. So just that I like. But yeah, I'm not going to watch a 13-match episode of Dark, despite the fact that they have done a couple of like upsets on Dark.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I'm sure there's stuff on Dark that is worth watching, but there's just so much of it that I can't commit to it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, otherwise, no news. We will be back on Thursday. Are we done, AJ? Where can they find you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ and on Instagram at AJTheFitzy and on Twitch at AJTheFitzy.
And as always, you can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/AllElitePod. We are on Instagram at AllEliteEverything. We are on Twitter at All Elite Podcast and YouTube at youtube.com/AllElitePodcast. If you're watching us there, make sure you smash that subscribe button, brother. And you can find me on Twitter at AllEliteAndy. Thank you guys for continuing to tune in and support the podcast every week. We always appreciate that. And until next time, see ya.
Bye.
What's up, guys? This is Marco Stunt, and you're listening to All Elite Podcast.
I'm Mark Quinn. This is Isaiah